Hey Gina.
Hi.
Hello. Hello to everyone out there, internet, wherever you are. Good evening or whatever time it is in the world. My name is Tim. I work at Automata, and really, yeah, thankful, excited to be here tonight with Gina Napolitan. We will be doing a live screening of her work, her piece titled Storybook Apocalypse, which I'm really excited to see. I haven't have a chance to see it yet, so I'll be watching it for the first time like everyone else here, I think, maybe. um, but yeah, Gina, I think I'm just going to go ahead and let some friends in the waiting room. Gina apparently doesn't have Facebook, and so it's kind of silly of me to be streaming this on Facebook. But yeah, some friends who are joining, if you want, yeah. Let's see if we could change our settings here. Hello. Do you guys want to be seen? I mean, we're welcome to have that, or if not, we'll go ahead and hide you, or
Yeah, I think that's okay.
yeah, whatever. Yeah, what does that mean? Should we? Should we? What do you think we should do? Huh? You guys
Yeah,
want to
I
join?
think
Or
we can just So maybe when the maybe after the screening we'll let everybody pop on.
okay, great. Yeah. So if you could just
They want to.
turn off your. We'll say hi to you guys again, and yeah. Before, maybe what I could do right now is just yeah, go ahead and read your bio for those of you that don't know Gina, and then we'll go ahead and yeah, screen the piece. I believe it's and then we'll have a little chat. Great. So a little bit about the artist tonight. Gina Marie Napolitan is a multi-disciplinary artist whose work encompasses animation, experimental film practices, painting, collage, and printmaking. Raised in Boston area, where everything seems to buckle under the weight of its own history, Gina draws endless inspiration from our collective cultural memory and the unreliability of our perception of the past. Her work is populated by distorted miniatures, found objects, murky houses, and smudgy, nameless ghosts. She's won awards, received artist residencies, shown work in galleries, screened at film festivals, but she spends most of her free time working as an art educator at Echo Park Film Center and adjunct professor at CSU Long Beach. Gina received her BFA from Mass Art and MFA from CalArts, doing experimental animation. So that's me trying to be formal, but I think we agreed that kind of both of us
We don't
being
have to
kind
be. We don't have to be too
of.
formal. It's okay.
All right. Yeah. So I guess well, I have so many questions for you, but as promised, maybe we should maybe go ahead and screen your piece. But is there
Yeah.
anything you want to say before we do that, or we could?
Yeah, I can just set up a little context.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is a piece that I started working on a while back. I've been kind of like piecemealing it over the last like year or so, and I ended up um, talking to Janie at Automata, and it ended up being a perfect kind of situation for doing the residency program there. So I spent about 2 weeks working in the space and
That was back
developing.
in March, April.
Yeah, it was
Losing
end of March, beginning
end
of
of March.
April.
Uh
Yeah,
huh.
it feels
Uh huh.
like a while ago,
Right. Right.
but yeah, so the piece is it kind of started. It started as as an animation piece most likely, and then as it's evolved over time, and now I'm thinking it's kind of a sort of an expanded cinema slash toy theater piece.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to be showing is kind of it's part documentation, part mock-up of what the piece might look like. It's very much still rough and in progress, but yeah, I'll show that. right now.
Great. Yeah, yeah. So I guess I'll go ahead and turn off my video.
Oh, can you enable screen sharing?
I never liked school. It was supposed to be a privilege. I was supposed to be grateful that my parents could afford to send me to school. I wanted to be grateful, if only to please them. School was a consolation imposed on me by the death of my siblings. Fewer mouths meant more money. My education would be the silver lining to our family tragedy. My parents found so much solace in that thought. But I hated school. I hate school. I muttered that phrase under my breath like a prayer each morning as I walked through the classroom door. School was a deafening swarm of impatient teachers and bored students. I hated school because I started too late. Catching up to the other students my age was impossible. I was literate, but my cadence betrayed me. I spoke awkwardly, searching for words. My responses to the teacher's questions were too slow and deliberate. The other students were better socialized and well-spoken. I was thrust into the lower tier of the class hierarchy. They would whisper jokes, and I could feel their hot, sibilant laughter on the back of my neck. Each day I made myself a little smaller, a little further away, breathed more shallowly. Weeks passed until the day when I left without a word. No one looked up as I rose from my desk, not even the teacher. I wonder how long it took them to notice I was gone. I walked as far as I could from the school, as if by instinct. My shoes padded softly along side streets and toward the harbor, as if possessed by some unknown spirit. I approached the dock of a small merchant ship. I crept onto the gangway, unnoticed in that busy whir of preparation for the launch. The crew discovered me hiding below a deck a few hours after leaving port. The surprise on their faces turned to annoyance, and for some, amusement. Question after question was asked, suggestions made. They gave me odd jobs to do around the ship and peddled unsolicited advice. I listened to the stale jokes and stories that their shipmates could no longer stomach. I gave them the gift of a fresh audience. It wasn't until my second day aboard that I met the ship's cat. Bored and mulling around the lower deck, I was startled by a soft chirp. I turned and saw her stretch into a graceful arch. She regarded me calmly, sniffing the air. I wondered if she was also a stowaway. But she wasn't. Her presence on the ship was intentional. She belonged here far more than I did. She demonstrated her utility by dropping dead rats at my feet. It felt distinctly like bragging. She began spending more time with me. I was smaller, calmer, quieter than the sailors. We provided each other with refuge. She sat by my side each night as I learned to read the stars: Ursa Major, Pleiades, Orion. All these star clusters had names, but the cat did not. I dared not name her myself. The very idea of naming her felt like a violation. To name something is to claim ownership, and she belonged only to herself. Meanwhile, my own name was beginning to slip away from me. I hadn't heard anyone say my name aloud in weeks. Names became incantations too powerful to wield casually. To speak my name would be to give me form at a time when I relished being a ghost. It would be foolish to give up the freedom, the relief that came from losing my identity. The days got darker, colder. The sea remained placid and eerily so. Our vessel slid along the glassy waves, and the unbroken surface of the water never once revealed the depth beneath. Weeks passed without incident until I fell overboard. The wind jerked the boat, and my hands refused to cling to the wet wood. My back rushing toward the sea, I watched the sky recede. The water was hard and sharp, what I would imagine it feels like to crash through the roof of a greenhouse. 1,000 piercing needles. I was transformed into a bobbing, icy blue bath toy. Time was elastic. I could have been in the water a lifetime, an hour, a minute. 2 crewmen who saw me plummet into the waves launched a heroic rescue of which I remember nothing. My eyes opened on the dim, familiar sky, and time resumed its normal, steady march. The initial relief was quickly replaced by shame and anger at my own carelessness. I was ill for several days after my fall. I'm not sure if the sickness stemmed from the unshakable chill in my bones or my own self-disgust. But the cat stayed with me each night. She was my witness. We were travelers together.
And that's it.
Wow.
Yes. So
I'm just taking a moment.
no,
That's a lot. Yeah.
yeah.
This is great. Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, with us. And, yeah, I there was a quote in there. It's like about the names. That was wow. Like so beautiful. Yeah, so many things about it. Yeah, I mean the text, the imagery, the puppetry, the use of light, and the use of animation, and just but also the story. Yeah, in terms of how things were just like kind of yeah, sort of
Yes.
played
Yeah,
together.
Yeah, it's funny. This is actually the first time I've really made anything that has like a very clear narrative to it.
Oh, really? Huh, I'm
Yeah,
surprised to hear that. I feel like you've been doing this your whole life.
yeah, I
Yeah.
tend to make pretty abstract
Okay.
films. So this is like one of the first times I've really done something that's very story driven, and it was really fun to make, but I was very well, going into it, it was like just very scary. Like the idea of doing something that's like a clear narrative really scared me. And I was like,
Mm.
okay, so if I'm feeling that scared, maybe maybe that means I should give it a shot. So,
Oh my
I
goodness,
mean,
that's
so like growing myself a little bit that
you're
way.
you're braver than me. I'm still stuck on that. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, what was there? So was it? Yeah, I guess. I mean, we've got the themes of like the adventure. There's the
Yeah.
Gina the adventurer kind of plunging into this whole thing.
Yeah.
I have so many questions. I mean, I have them here, and then I have some in my head, and then watching actually this piece, I have like a bunch more. But first things first, I wanted to talk about the title because of
Oh,
your like of what you said about the names and then how what was it to name something is to claim ownership. So I wanted to kind of ask you about this piece and maybe I don't know if you say you own it or whatever, but like a storybook apocalypse, is it the apocalypse of the storybook
yeah. I,
or is it the story
well,
or the
I,
other way around, or like storybooks about the apocalypse, or
yeah.
what's going on?
I can't remember
Hmm.
where the phrase came from. I when I was starting to work on this piece, I was going through some of my because I keep like all these notebooks, and I was flipping through my notebooks, and I have a tendency to just jot down little phrases, and that was
Okay.
one of the phrases I had jotted down, and I was
Okay.
like, oh, actually that works for this. And the idea being that like apocalypse just means secret book, like
Okay.
even though people think of apocalypse as like
End
the
of the
end of the
world.
world,
Yeah.
but technically it just means like a book, like a sort of a secret book with secret teachings.
Unveiling, right? Is it
Yeah, the
uncovering or
unveiling.
something? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
So
oh
I
wow.
kind of,
Okay.
yeah. So I guess I kind of was looking at it like because the whole theme of the piece is taking one of these sort of Treasure Island, Robert Louis Stevenson style
Hmm.
adventure stories, and instead of focusing on all of the daring do and the activity that's going on and all the very
Daring
physical.
do? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar.
Oh, the daring do.
What's the daring?
It's a very old timey phrase, I guess.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, just like these these adventures and like these very like um, compelling physical adventures, and taking that premise but having the focus be on the emotional life of the character rather
Hmm.
than all of these exciting things that they're doing.
I see. So
Yeah,
not like Indiana Jones or like Tom Sawyer or something like just
yeah, so it's the
we
same setup, so it's like taking
fly.
that same setup but
Okay.
yeah, taking the same setup but turning it into like this story of this character's interior life. And I think and like focusing on this child because I think children, especially because children are so much more complicated and have so much and are so much more perceptive. And um, yeah, I feel like it does a service to that whole genre to like recognize the complexity of like a child's mind in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a 5-year-old kid, so as I was preparing for this, I couldn't help but think of him and my 5-year-old boy Emmanuel, and like a lot goes on. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally second that. Yeah, and they're always observing, and I think it's incredible. What made you kind of come to this? Was it like personal childhood experience, or like you just want to shake
It,
things up?
I don't,
uh,
it's funny, like, because a lot of it is, I have like the way I kind of construct my films, especially my films and my animation, especially, is very driven. It's a it's almost, it is kind of a childlike process the way I build things because I'm an obsessive like collector of weird little objects.
okay.
And so a lot of, and I was noticing over the past couple of years, I've collected a lot of like maritime themed and like sailors and like little figures of sailors and little figures of boats and things. And I was just like, huh, why am I so drawn to these? And I think part of it is because I did grow up. I did spend a lot of time like by the water when I was
Mm.
a kid, like on Boston
In
Harbor.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's always been kind of in my consciousness. And um, but yeah, it just kind of naturally, kind of everything just kind of naturally fell into place. And once I had all these, and I was just in my garage playing with all these toys, and just like, and I was like, oh, what if I did a story that was like a Treasure Island kind of story with these figures, but it's kind of like a not, but kind of like a modern version of that. And I did love those kind of stories when I was a kid, but I think growing up as growing up, I always felt a little excluded because there were always boys. And so it's kind of nice to, it was kind of nice to kind of take this and frame it from my own perspective. And yeah, just kind of taking this story, this like sort of story formula that I've always kind of been drawn to, and kind of retrofitting it for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really. I mean, this would be like age 7-ish, or what kind of like, or how old are you? I'm just trying to compare, like, yeah, in terms of when you say like
Yeah,
boys adventure stories. Is that like
yeah. I guess I always think of
years?
them as like 8 or 9 years
Yeah.
old, kind of like
Okay. So like a
that
grade
age.
3 or
Yeah.
4. Yeah. I see. I
Mhm.
see.
Yeah.
Huh.
And yeah, just to, and the toy theater felt natural to start bringing that in because of the, if I'm going for that sort of a story that's like one of those adventure stories, toy theaters were so popular around that time, like that Victorian era
Uh
of
huh.
toy theater. And actually
Okay.
the toy theater, actually, it's a, I printed out this replica and constructed it of this, it's like a Victorian Dutch toy theater that I found that just happened to have like a pirate scene
You're
in
talking
right
about the
there.
set that we
Yeah, the
just
set
saw.
in
Okay.
the
Uh
little
huh.
toy theater set that I
I
was
see. I
using.
see.
Yeah.
Oh wow. And have you always like, I don't know, I'm trying to like pry things out of your past life. But is that something you grew up with, like toy theaters that were always a part of your life
No,
growing
no,
up?
I
Yeah.
it's funny. I got into puppetry when I was in high school. I got really interested in puppetry, and I got really interested in especially artists who built puppets. Like I loved I remember my high school art teacher showed me
This was
um,
in Boston. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
my high school art teacher showed me Alexander Calder's circus. Like he not everybody knows this. Everyone thinks of him for the mobiles, but he actually built this super elaborate, like mechanical miniature circus, like this whole beautiful set. If you can find the video, you should watch it.
Okay.
It's
Oh wow.
absolutely amazing.
Okay.
And I remember seeing that and being like, oh, you can like be an artist and play with toys and kind of, it doesn't have, because I think and I talk to my friend Bo about this all the time, like this idea of um, art not taking itself too seriously, and kind of letting making art that's like somewhat playful and has like a little bit of a sense of humor, and it's something that's always been important to me,
Mm.
um, and has like a childlike quality. So
Yeah. Yes. Oh, wow. I get that sense, yeah, and yet this piece was sounded very serious. I
yeah.
mean, it was very introspective. I didn't catch it quite. I was busy trying to let people in Zoom or whatever. But like the like, was there a mention of like a death of a sibling that brought this
Yeah, I was,
about for the character? And
yeah, because
yeah,
I was trying to kind of set it up and use one of these like sort of very Victorian style classic setups where it's like this orphan child or this child who runs away or has like a tragedy. There's usually some tragedy, it feels like, in a lot of those stories. So I wanted to have some element of that.
I see. I see. Did you hate school growing up?
No, I
No.
mean, I did
Yeah.
for,
'Cause
I
my
mean,
kid hates school. Yeah.
it's funny because I really loved school. I didn't like the other students, but I loved school. Like I loved my
Uh-huh.
teachers and I loved learning. But I always had I was always very awkward and very had a lot of trouble socializing when I was a kid. So I think that's a little bit where part of
I
that
see.
comes from in the story too. Yeah.
I see. I see. Huh. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Um, I'm just trying to scan. I'm also looking at, for those that are watching at home. Trying to I forgot to mention this, but if you have any questions, it's we've done the screening, and so this is the Q&A portion, and I have a bunch of questions for Gina, and I'm just gonna continue to roll them out. But yeah, if you do have any questions, yeah, feel free to just go ahead and post them on the Facebook wall, or those that are on Zoom. Yeah, go ahead and I'm trying to monitor, yeah, what's going on here as well. But yeah, what was it like to make this piece? I mean, like you mentioned that what we saw in the poster that there was a lot of layers, and then the piece
Yeah.
itself, the giant hand coming down, and
Yeah, it was a lot of trial and error. I'm not sure if it's going to really look the same. I think I might end up changing some of that format, because what I had was like I had a camcorder facing the toy theater, and then there's a rear screen behind the toy theater with a slide projector.
yeah.
Because most of the images I made on 35 millimeter film.
Okay.
Um,
Can I go ahead and
iPhone.
share that picture, so just so
Oh, sure,
everyone
yeah.
kind of knows what you're talking about? Yeah. So let me see if I can get this going. So we have this right here, right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so there's the camcorder
Uh-huh.
facing. I'm thinking ultimately what it's going to be is the toy theater and then a live feed projection.
Okay.
Um,
Can you talk us through like what actually happened first?
yeah,
So the
it was
live
a lot
feed
of
was down
yeah.
here in the
So
left bottom corner, or?
yeah, so in the top right, you see me standing in front of that projected screen.
Uh-huh.
And then the camcorder in the left corner is what's feeding that. Um, and then the toy theater, the background of the toy theater is a rear screen, or like for
Like the white
projection.
part in the
Yeah,
behind
so
it. Okay.
that's a rear screen, and then
Okay.
the slide projector is projecting on that.
Oh wow.
Um, and it just, I think, I think I was just like so into the idea of having a rear screen. I think I might make some changes when I do this again.
Hmm.
Because the slide projector got really clunky after a while, and it was so loud.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Would you incorporate the sound into the soundtrack or whatever?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the soundtrack, and yeah, and I have to say a giant thank you to my friend Moira, who
Ooh.
did the narration, and she's such an amazing actress and voiceover. She has such a great voice.
She was great. Yeah.
Um,
Who also
and
was, yeah, a resident artist at Automata.
yeah, she's wonderful. Yeah, she
Mm.
was also a really. You should check out her work. She's very talented as well.
Mhm.
And
But
my
she did
friend
the,
Rose.
yeah. Did you write, did you do the writing though? Like
Yeah, that's
okay.
all. That's a story. That's kind of where it all started. Is
Okay.
well, after playing with all my toy sailors,
All your toys.
I ended up writing this. I just like it just came to me one night, and aside from some little tweaks of the language and things, I kind of just one night I just sat and I just wrote that whole thing. It just kind of came out of me. I don't know where it came from. But it was really exciting to like write something like that. And I've actually been getting really, really into writing.
Was that the complete like script of what you wrote, like the whole story?
Yeah,
Was the set
that's the whole story from start
Oh
to
wow.
finish. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah. I'm trying to sound all smart because I was reading the Wikipedia page on Robert Louis Stevenson, and apparently he wrote really fast, or like Dr. Jekyll or whatever.
Oh, really?
It was like written in 4 days, and then it sold like 1,000 copies or something, or
Oh,
like ridiculous. And then I don't know, but while I was waiting, yeah, to come online, but we're just thinking of how like it sounds like you're like got a lifetime of playing with toys, and
yeah,
then like all of a sudden it just like I need to get this out, and this is happening,
yeah.
and then, so the script or the writing or story like kind of happened first. Would you like could you have just published that book and
Yeah,
have been a story, or like how did
yeah. I definitely, after I wrote it, I was like, I was picturing it as a narrated piece, um, and yeah, it's I don't know, I would like to like maybe publish it somewhere eventually at some
like
point, but
as a book by itself,
yeah, just as a little
or
story
something?
by itself.
Right, right,
I
right.
would love to do that at some point.
I see. But like your craft is very much with visuals and animation,
Yeah, and I think
collage.
it, I think they, and actually watching it again, I'm like, oh, they really benefit each other. The story benefits from the images, and the images benefit from the
It
story.
flowed beautifully, yeah, like super organically. Like it felt like it was very much, yeah, fit for the medium. And I'm seeing a couple of comments here actually that's
Oh
just
yeah.
asking like if you would ever consider like making more of these like live. Actually, would you like in the performance setting? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I
Um,
love doing I love doing sort of like these more expanded cinema, like live performance type things. I've done a lot of them with I've helped a lot of people with these kind of projects.
I see.
But this is the first one I've kind of orchestrated for myself.
Right, right. You mentioned at
Um,
the top like this is the first time you did like something linear or like in a
yeah,
gray, right? That's
yeah,
really
that actually, and that has
But in
like a
terms of the
lot of,
medium, you've done yeah a lot of
yeah,
huh.
yeah, because I've done a lot of puppetry, and I've done a lot of like live video for theater.
Okay.
But this is the first time I've done it for my own project, and yeah, it's kind of exciting to do it. And I would love to like expand this and build this project up a little more. And um, yeah, so this is definitely not the final version by any means. It's definitely gonna
Wow, great.
it's definitely gonna turn into some sort of live performance, I'm
Uh huh.
hoping.
I
Yeah.
see. I see. That would be great. Yeah, that'd be really wonderful. Seeing yeah a couple of oh, I got another comment come in. So lovely, Gina. Can you speak to your process of deciding what is filmed beforehand and what you want to do as part of the live performance aspect?
Yeah, so I think the all of the all of a lot of it is going to depend on what else I find to do with the toy theater, I think at this
Uh huh.
point. But it definitely the theater is going to all be live, and then I have a couple of all of the animation sections, with maybe two exceptions. They're all created as just loops, so I can, with the idea being that I can cut from the live feed to these animated sections, and I'm making them in loops with the idea that they'll kind of buy me time while I'm doing things
Uh huh.
live.
Uh huh. Like a
So I don't
DJ
have
kind
to,
of. Yeah, you're or
so
like
I
a
could just leave
juggler.
it looping
Uh huh. Uh huh. Yeah.
while I'm like making mistakes in the theater or whatever.
What's the live feed portion if you could kind of repeat yourself a little bit,
Oh, sure,
like
yeah, because
yeah, yeah.
the live feed will just be footage of the toy theater that's projected
I
behind
see.
it, and then that projection will have elements of pre-recorded video cut in, um, and that is and most of the I kind of have been thinking about the toy theater as kind of like this more physical world, whereas the projected imagery is more of a sort of a sort of an interior world,
Oh,
like a dream, sort of a dreamy interior world for the characters.
hmm. So like you got the physical and then the interior projected. Yeah, how do you see your role? I mean, this is really interesting. Actually, I'm personally, yeah, genuinely fascinated about like dimensions, and then theater, and then like different walls, like
Yeah.
in terms of it's really really interesting. Yeah, how do you see it, the breakdown? I mean, you just said, yeah, there's the physical thing, the theater, and then the projection of the thing on the wall. How about like yourself? Yeah, what
Yeah,
kind of
that's
role?
something, that's what I'm kind of trying to trying to figure out, I think, with this piece and
Because it
where
was
I'm
really
like,
cool to see your body and face and hand, like, yeah, yeah, it was like really
yeah, I
um
like doing, yeah, that's one of the reasons. Like I always love it when like Susan Simpson's work, like where you see the puppet, like in Janie's work, where you see like the puppeteers' hands, and like they become a presence in there, and it's like watching a film, but seeing the film being made at the same time. And there's something really exciting about that, and really
yes,
like,
yeah.
yeah, and so I kind of, it'll definitely be, I have a feeling the final version will definitely be like me or somebody, me and maybe say another person puppeteering. And then I would love to have a live narration, live music, and then maybe somebody doing video switching.
Hmm.
So
With
I
the
kind of,
loud slide projector, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I'm kind of like, oh, the slide projector is really loud. I might have to cut it. I might have to just do the slides as a
Huh.
digital thing.
Interesting, interesting. Speaking of, yeah, Janie and Susan, whom we obviously love, Automata would not, be here, weren't for them.
Yeah.
Do you have any other influences, yeah, in terms of like this particular style of working or the aesthetics? I mean, I know you like to play with toys growing up, but like,
Yeah,
yeah, in terms of,
it's kind of, yeah, it's I've I've always been like a thrift store, junk store kind of, um, just always perusing them, looking for weird little things ever since I was in high school. Like I was like, there was a thrift store that I used to go to all the time, that my friend and I used to get all sorts of weird little things there. Um, and it's always, yeah, it's like actually some of the stuff in that film is actually stuff I got from the flea market in Brockton, Massachusetts when I was
uh,
like 17 years old. Like
yeah.
I've held on to all this
Oh,
weird
that's
stuff.
awesome.
I'm not really a hoarder, but I definitely do have
You sound like one.
little special boxes of
uh,
stuff that I hold on
uh,
to. And
hmm.
I try to cycle through it.
They're all labeled and stuff. It's like from
Yeah,
periods.
I try to keep it relative, because that's the weird thing is like you can show me anything in my weird little collection and I can tell you exactly when and where I got it. I have a
Wow,
weird memory for it.
that's
Um,
that's so cool. So your inspirations, yeah, in addition to people, it's like objects, and how it kind of crisscrosses or intersects with your daily life, throughout your life. Yeah, basically, and then depending on where you were, yeah, and all that. That's amazing. There's another question that just kind of popped in. I thought might be related. It would be thinking about this lately. This is why do you think we're fascinated by miniatures, toy theater, etc.?
there's a
What is it?
whole I was gonna say there's a whole book I really love that's
Okay,
all
okay.
about this, called On Longing,
On longing. Okay.
that I really love. And that the but yeah, it's fascinating. I think for me, I can't really speak to everyone, but I know for me, I find it really fascinating because it is a world that's, it's such a complex and such a intricate, and like it's a form that takes a lot of talent and craftsmanship to work on, but it's a form that for a very, very long time has always been relegated to women and children. Like, it has always kind of been looked down upon. And there's a lot of psychological things with miniatures where it's like, it's a way of exerting control over something and kind of creating this analog and being able to get that macro view of everything, because we're very rarely able to get that wider view of just our domestic lives. And I think miniatures allow us to get more perspective on our day-to-day life in that sense, like just these ordinary things, because I love how ordinary miniatures are too. It's always like an ironing board. I have a miniature rocking chair that I love, and they're all very mundane things, but they're very powerful. There's something when you shrink them down to that size, they become very magical, and they like all of that power that they kind of gets condensed when you have it in this like little. It's like getting your vitamins in like a tiny little pill, like. If that makes any sense. Yeah.
No, I've never heard it described that way before. Yeah, that's. I guess it forces you to look, in a really like intense way. You're having to just.
It's almost like a domestic version of aerial photography, where like you can actually see everything for what it is in concert with everything else around it, and we don't normally see that in our houses and in our day-to-day lives. We don't see everything as a whole. And miniatures let us see things as a whole in a really interesting way.
That's really interesting when I think about what you said earlier about linearity, like how things are just progressing, A B C D E, and like then this kind of aerial view, it's but you're like an observer, at the same time. I don't know. It's really cool, really cool. Let me see if I'm missing any questions here. There was a question about the music. Was it composed or improvised, or how did that?
The music was all of the musical bits were made by Bo Mingus, who's he's one of my best friends, and we collaborate really closely on a lot of projects together. And he made a series of, I'd been talking to him about this, and he made a series of these really beautiful just these very beautiful tracks that are all he had put together some that were like compiled, and then he gave me all of the stems, like all of the individual tracks, so that I could, and that's been a way we've worked a lot in the past, where he composes all these little bits and pieces and then kind of gives me all the little bits and pieces, and then I'm able to figure out where they fit. And it ends up working really well. I think most of the time for us.
Strangely that makes a lot of sense, because it kind of matches what you kind of shared about like all the things that you collect.
It's true. It's true. It's like kind of the same thing. It's like everything is kind of revolves around collage in a way. Like it's all Bo giving me these materials that I can collage together, and me working with all these random little bits and trying to collage them into a coherent whole.
I see. Very non-linear. Very kind of keeps it really open and adventurous. I'm pulling very. That's very interesting. It's I'm still stuck on the linear part. I don't know. Like, how do you feel after this kind of first attempt? Are you happy with that? Like, does it make you?
I actually am really excited. After doing the residency and kind of putting together, kind of stringing out all the elements that I have so far, and kind of putting together this mock-up was so helpful in terms of just making me feel a little more confident about working in this more linear way. And actually, what I was going to mention too, one of the people who kind of, well, she inspires me in so many other ways too, but my friend, the filmmaker Charlotte Price, she's been the last couple of years, she's someone who's always made kind of abstract films, and very quiet films that don't have an obvious narrative. And she's been recently making these magic lantern shows that have these beautiful texts that are narrated over the lantern shows. And I was like, okay, if Charlotte did it, like Charlotte was really brave and she did that. I can be brave too.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Huh. Well, yeah. I mean, really carried through. Yeah, like this is silly, but they say this about like filmmakers, like it takes your whole life to make your first film or whatever. And then like I don't. Do you feel that at all, or is it like kind of
Yeah, I mean,
lifetime worth of?
I mean, I feel like you just kind of, yeah, it's nothing ever feels fully finished. Like there are very few things I've made that really feel finished to me. And I think that's what, and one of the reasons I really like working in film and like working in like experimental theater is the the project stays alive for a really long time. Like the project kind of keeps on living. Like every time an audience engages with it, every time you perform it, every time you screen it. So it feels like it's always a living thing, which I find really really exciting and very kind of weirdly comforting. It's like it kind of has this, they like these things they'll go into hibernation, but they never really die. They're always you can always bring them back to life somehow. Yeah. Like projects from 10, 15 years ago that I was working on, I can show them to a new audience and it feels, and they're alive again. It's like a new, it's like watch, it's never stopped.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
It's so rich. Yeah. It's really cool. Let me see what else. Do you think about the audience at all? Like when you perform or when you're showing this, I don't know. I'm speaking hypothetically, whatever. But like
Yeah.
in terms of how, is there an ideal way to engage with the work? Like
Yeah. I don't, I think for me, the only thing I really have in mind for the audience when I'm making work is I do want to transport people. And I feel like a lot of my work, I like to, and my friend Bo, who did the music, we talk about this a lot, where we want to soothe people in a way. Like we want the audience to feel safe so that they can be transported and go to this like very, very quiet, contemplative, but interesting space. It's like Brian Eno talked about it when he talks about ambient music. He says it's like this balance where it has to be interesting enough that you can listen to it, but boring enough that you can ignore it. And like it's almost like I kind of have that same thing where it's like I want it to be something that people can feel comfortable with, and but at the same time interested in.
Ambient theater. I've never. Yeah, oh, that's cool. That's cool. Oh. Are you a music fan as well, or
Yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of different music, and it's something like I'm always listening to music when I'm working.
And so you're also a collector of that. Yes.
A little bit, not too much. I used to be a little more of a vinyl collector, and I'm not so much these days because it gets expensive, and I don't have, and I need space for my random junk. So.
Did you have a favorite record store in Boston? I'm asking as someone who lived there. Yeah.
Oh God, why can't I remember the name of it? There's one in Harvard Square that was like in a basement, and I can't remember.
Okay, no, I lived in Austin, and there was like something 54 or something. Yeah. Austin. Somebody did a shout out. No, that's cool. Yeah, I used to hang around Harvard Square as well a lot.
Yeah, I used to spend a lot of time down there. Yeah.
I mean, speaking of like collectors and history and like old things, yeah, like I wanted to ask you, like, there was a line in your bio, and formal or whatever, but like, I think you said something like, raised in Boston area where everything seems to buckle under the weight of its own history.
That's my
What did you
pretentious.
mean by
That's my goofy pretentious artist bio.
that?
Maybe. No, it's true. It's just like everything that's, and I feel like that's something I've come to realize that I have only come to realize since moving to California, where I didn't realize how much um, how much history I was surrounded with all the time. Because I think about my childhood. I remember rolling my eyes and being like, "Oh, we're gonna go to Plymouth Rock again. Oh, we're gonna go on the Freedom Trail again
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
field trip in like
yeah,
elementary school or
yeah,
something." And
yeah. Did
then,
you guys do duck tours? No,
oh, no,
that's
I
for
was never
tourists,
did a
right?
duck tour. I never
Oh.
did a duck tour. But I always found it funny because like I would hear when I moved out to California, I would hear people talking about like, "Oh yeah, this place is really old. It's from the 1890s." I was like, the house I grew up in was built in like the 1860s.
uh,
Yeah, so it's crazy how yeah, history is something I've always been really fascinated with anyways. And
mm,
yeah, I think that's always on my mind is talking about the just history and how it's so, and I think this is a conversation that we've been having as a culture more and more, which is great, and talking about like people's histories versus great man history, as they call it, like,
mhm.
and people finally paying more attention to these like people's histories.
Right.
And yeah,
Could be, yeah, a very rich kind of place to explore, I imagine, yeah, through what you're doing, yeah, because it's like, it's such a, yeah, I mean, it's such a familiar, like, language, or lack of a better term. Yeah, I used to work in Lexington, Massachusetts,
yeah,
and all the, yeah, historical, yeah,
there's a lot
whatever.
of, it's like everywhere you go, there's a plaque. There's so many
Yes,
plaques.
yes, yes,
So many
yes.
plaques.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Would that make an appearance maybe in the next episode?
maybe
Yeah,
it could
yeah,
be.
yeah.
Could be.
Because this is really cool too. Because like the adventure stuff, there's like a lot of series, right? And so
Mhm.
makes
Yeah.
it's almost
So
like naturally, yeah.
yeah, I could just keep make a whole. I mean, that would be amazing if I just started making. If I could kind of pull myself together and make a whole series of these. That'd be really really fun.
That's so
Um,
cool. That's so cool.
yeah. And I saw there's a request to screen the piece again. Should I just show that?
Yes.
And that could be the kind of like
Could be, yeah. There's
our
literally 8 minutes
exit here.
left
And I
until
know
we hit
there.
8. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so I
let's do that.
can,
That might be
yeah, I
nice.
can screen it. I'll put on
All
the
right,
piece
all right.
again for those who missed part of it.
Hmm.
Oh, right.
I never liked school. It was supposed to be a privilege. I was supposed to be grateful that my parents could afford to send me to school. I wanted to be grateful, if only to please them. School was a consolation imposed on me by the death of my siblings. Fewer mouths meant more money. My education would be the silver lining to our family tragedy. My parents found so much solace in that thought. But I hated school. I hate school. I muttered that phrase under my breath like a prayer each morning as I walked through the classroom door. School was a deafening swarm of impatient teachers and bored students. I hated school because I started too late. Catching up to the other students my age was impossible. I was literate, but my cadence betrayed me. I spoke awkwardly, searching for words. My responses to the teacher's questions were too slow and deliberate. The other students were better socialized and well-spoken. I was thrust into the lower tier of the class hierarchy. They would whisper jokes, and I could feel their hot, sibilant laughter on the back of my neck. Each day I made myself a little smaller, a little further away, breathed more shallowly. Weeks passed until the day when I left without a word. No one looked up as I rose from my desk, not even the teacher. I wonder how long it took them to notice I was gone. I walked as far as I could from the school, as if by instinct. My shoes padded softly along side streets and toward the harbor, as if possessed by some unknown spirit. I approached the dock of a small merchant ship. I crept onto the gangway, unnoticed in that busy whir of preparation for the launch. The crew discovered me hiding below a deck a few hours after leaving port. The surprise on their faces turned to annoyance, and for some, amusement. Question after question was asked, suggestions made. They gave me odd jobs to do around the ship and peddled unsolicited advice. I listened to the stale jokes and stories that their shipmates could no longer stomach. I gave them the gift of a fresh audience. It wasn't until my second day aboard that I met the ship's cat. Bored and mulling around the lower deck, I was startled by a soft chirp. I turned and saw her stretch into a graceful arch. She regarded me calmly, sniffing the air. I wondered if she was also a stowaway. But she wasn't. Her presence on the ship was intentional. She belonged here far more than I did. She demonstrated her utility by dropping dead rats at my feet. It felt distinctly like bragging. She began spending more time with me. I was smaller, calmer, quieter than the sailors. We provided each other with refuge. She sat by my side each night as I learned to read the stars: Ursa Major, Pleiades, Orion. All these star clusters had names, but the cat did not. I dared not name her myself. The very idea of naming her felt like a violation. To name something is to claim ownership, and she belonged only to herself. Meanwhile, my own name was beginning to slip away from me. I hadn't heard anyone say my name aloud in weeks. Names became incantations too powerful to wield casually. To speak my name would be to give me form at a time when I relished being a ghost. It would be foolish to give up the freedom, the relief that came from losing my identity. The days got darker, colder. The sea remained placid and eerily so. Our vessel slid along the glassy waves, and the unbroken surface of the water never once revealed the depth beneath. Weeks passed without incident until I fell overboard. The wind jerked the boat, and my hands refused to cling to the wet wood. My back rushing toward the sea, I watched the sky recede. The water was hard and sharp, what I would imagine it feels like to crash through the roof of a greenhouse. 1,000 piercing needles. I was transformed into a bobbing, icy blue bath toy. Time was elastic. I could have been in the water a lifetime, an hour, a minute. 2 crewmen who saw me plummet into the waves launched a heroic rescue of which I remember nothing. My eyes opened on the dim, familiar sky, and time resumed its normal, steady march. The initial relief was quickly replaced by shame and anger at my own carelessness. I was ill for several days after my fall. I'm not sure if the sickness stemmed from the unshakable chill in my bones or my own self-disgust. But the cat stayed with me each night. She was my witness. We were travelers together.
Okay. So thank you everybody for coming and watching, and thank you Tim for organizing this and being the tech guru.
No, yeah, no, thank you so much. Yeah, that was very special. Yeah,
Thank you.
Many people, yeah, are kind of seeing. Yeah, would really love to see more. I really hope you do more. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really
I'm
love to
hoping
see.
I'm hoping I can keep working on this piece and turning it into something a little more finished and
Mm,
something that and hopefully post pandemic I can do a live version someday.
that'd be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be so wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Gina, and thanks for
Yeah, thank
everyone.
you.
Yeah, for watching tonight, and hope you all have a great night. Till then, we'll talk soon. Oh, yeah, we'll talk later. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, thank
Thank you.
you. Thank
Everyone, have
you
a good night.
everyone.
Alrighty. Bye.